pandemonium going on in the sporting world right now, especially after the Super Bowl that was on this past Sunday. The Philadelphia Eagles getting the 41-33 win over the New England Patriots, and National Signing Day going on right now for college football. The University of Alabama head coach Nick Saban doing its thing, picking up some critical names in the secondary for the 2018 signing class. But for right now, you're locked and loaded with your boy, Stephen M. Smith, in my own words, the podcast Touchdown Alabama magazine, and getting into a topic that I promised I would get into. I promised I would discuss, and that is players that must emerge, rise up, step up in the absence of those for the Crimson Tide who are declaring or leaving for the National Football League. In terms of quarterback, running back, and wide receiver, Alabama pretty much fine right there. Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, all three of these guys coming back. At running back, yes, the Crimson Tide losing Bo Scarborough to the NFL Combine, but it returns Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, and Brian Robinson. At wide receiver, it sucks to lose Calvin Ridley. It hurts to see Cam Sims and Robert Foster both leave, but hey, you bring back Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Tyrell Shavers, Henry Ruggs III, and others. So quarterback, wide receiver, running back, Alabama, no lacking. In terms of, guys that you have to replace, fill in for where offense is concerned, that will start on the front line with Bradley Bozeman, a 2-year starter at center, now pursuing the National Football League. Some potential replacements for him, I look at Jonah Williams, Brandon Kennedy, and Josh Casher. Jonah Williams, a 2-year starter at offensive tackle, 2016, his freshman year at right tackle, this past year at left tackle. The 2016 season, if you remember, Williams helping Damian Harris pick up 1,037 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, and aiding Jalen Hurts, a freshman at that time at quarterback, to 2,780 passing yards, 954 rushing yards, 36 total touchdowns, earning him the Southeastern Conference's Offensive Player of the Year award. Last season, Jonah at left tackle, not the most dominant year, had some pretty good games, but had issues with penalties, allowed a couple of sacks to get through. So not the greatest of years, not the greatest year at left tackle, but did do some good things. But I remember the 2016 college football playoff semifinal game against Washington, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Prior to the matchup, the media got a chance to speak with Ross Pierschbacher, who returns for his redshirt senior year at left guard, and he talked about how Jonah Williams is the most intense film watcher on the team. Most guys, when they watch film, they watch it for the enjoyment of it. I mean, yes, they get some study time in, making sure that if you're the offensive line, if you're an offensive lineman, you're watching what your position group does, and defensive linemen watch what their position group does, and so on and so forth. But Jonah Williams gets very analytical with it. He sits down and he watches film and he goes, why did they hit the A gap when they should have hit the C gap? Why did he call out the Mike linebacker when he could have been calling out that guy? He really zones in on different perspectives. And it gets to a point where Ross basically is going, Jonah, I'm trying to watch the game, chill. But that's how Jonah Williams is. His mind is built like an offensive coordinator or an offensive line coach. Pierschbacher even said it himself. When you watch film with Jonah, it's like watching film with Brent Key. He's taking it in as if he's a coach or a coordinator. And with that type of work ethic, also paired with Jonah Williams' size at 6'5", 301 pounds, it would not surprise me to have Jonah transition over to center. Also, keep in mind, Alex Leatherwood, the rising sophomore, 6'6" offensive tackle out of Pensacola, Florida. When Williams went down with an injury in the second half of the national championship game against Georgia, Leatherwood came in and did a bang-up good job, keeping Tua Tagovailoa upright, helping him make some big-time passes downfield, whether it was to Calvin Ridley, Henry Ruggs, Devonta Smith, the game winner, Robert Foster, you name it. Alex Leatherwood did his thing. And if he can become the starting left tackle, Jonah Williams at center, not a bad look for Alabama, especially when you consider what the center's job is. Pointing out, hey, you got that cat, you got that cat, you got that cat, I take this cat and let's roll. Jonah Williams at center, a definite possibility. Brandon Kennedy, number 2. He was the backup guy last year behind Bradley Bozeman. Kennedy, one of 7 linemen, signed in the Tide's 2015 class. He was the number 3 rated offensive guard, according to Rivals.com, coming out of Wetumpka, Alabama, but can play both guard and center. Kennedy got hurt last year down the stretch during a practice at Thomas Drew Field for the Tide, but back healthy, back ready to rock and roll. And then also Josh Casher, who was the nation's top-rated center coming out of high school in Mobile in 2014. All 3 guys very much so capable, but give me Jonah Williams based on the findings from Ross Pierschbaker, Williams' size, and also the emergence of Alex Leatherwood at that left tackle position. Switching this now from offense to defense, and on the defensive line, in particular defensive end, Alabama's okay here. I understand losing Deshaun Hand is difficult. Was a big-time rotation player. Didn't really blossom into the marquee name he could have been, the 5-star coming out of Woodbridge, Virginia in that 2014 class. Had to play behind so many big names, whether it was Jaron Reed, Jonathan Allen, A'Shawn Robinson, Tim Williams, Ryan Anderson, just so many big names, but Hand able to press through and get some things done. Tide also losing Josh Frazier and Jamar King. But it returns. Isaiah Buggs, Raekwon Davis, Quinnen Williams, LaBryan Ray. All 4 of these men are dogs. Isaiah Buggs, Raekwon Davis expected to have monster years next season. Raekwon Davis actually led all defensive linemen in tackles. I believe he finished 3rd on the team in tackles and 1st in sacks, if I'm not mistaken. Isaiah Buggs coming over from the JUCO ranks, really filled in nicely, did a phenomenal job. Quinnen Williams at 6'4", 285 pounds, out of Winona High School in Birmingham. People still holding him to that comparison of Jonathan Allen, who's right now playing for the Washington Redskins, and LaBryan Ray, the product of Madison, Alabama, James Clemens High School. Boy, did he have some rising moments this past year. Got hurt, but he's back and will look to be better than ever in 2018. Alabama also signing in this 2018 class Stephon Wynn, Yibayi Anoma, and Jerez Parks for that 2018 class. So at defensive end, Alabama not lacking. The defensive tackle position is where the question mark comes in, because losing Daron Payne at 6'2", 308 pounds, a 3-year starter from 2015 to 2017, coming out of Shades Valley High School in Birmingham, somebody that was exceptional against the run, can pressure the quarterback when needed to, and boy, got them hands. Can create interceptions, also catching touchdown passes. So Daron Payne, big deal here. The guys that will look to replace him, Johnny Dwight returning for his redshirt senior year, big Fedarian Mathis, who came into that 2017 class. Hearing a lot of good things from him, according to players I've talked to, people around the program, other media pundits I've spoken with. He's been really cracking heads. People are excited to see what the big boy Mathis can do next season. For this 2018 class is concerned, Alabama signing Christian Barmore, who is 6'5", 290 pounds. But when I look at Stephon Wynn, I know he was signed as a defensive end, but at 6'4", 308 pounds, he actually, to me, seems more like a tweener. Can also play that defensive tackle position with that size. He's got a ton of speed, can explode off the edge, but with that size and that ability to control the gaps and stop the run, could literally also see Stephon Wynn at that defensive tackle mode there. So, in the absence of Daron Payne, Johnny Dwight, Phidarian Mathis, Christian Barmore, Stephon Wynn, but the guy I can see really taking over that spot is big Phidarian Mathis. Now, Alabama has a number of guys on this defensive line that you could pack on 5, 10, 15 pounds, give or take, and slide them from defensive end to defensive tackle, but we'll see how this thing will pan out for Alabama. As we look at the linebackers here, Alabama losing Sean Dion Hamilton and Rashaan Evans to the upcoming NFL draft, but where inside guys are concerned, you do bring back Mack Wilson, Dylan Moses, both guys natural headhunters. Dylan Moses, who is a freshman All-SEC nomination this past year after having 30 tackles, a couple of sacks, did have an interception against Mercer, was playing very well prior to him getting hurt. Mack Wilson, 4 picks this season, including a pick 6 against Clemson in the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, Louisiana, college football playoff semifinal game. 4 picks on the year for Wilson, leading the team. He is pegged to be the next big-time great linebacker. So Dylan Moses, Mack Wilson, as far as your inside guys go. Please also keep in mind Keith Holcomb coming back for his redshirt senior year. I also look at guys like Vondarius Cowan, Markel Benton, who a lot of people are high on. He came into that 2017 class out of Phoenix City, Alabama. And then also Ben Davis. Don't write this young man off. 2016 guy coming out of Gordo High School. And somebody that I understand he had some trouble early on learning the defense. He's got the system down. He's fine-tuning that attention to detail. So some of the young guys, Vondarius Cowan, Markel Benton, Ben Davis, look for those individuals. Keith Holcomb coming back for his redshirt senior year, but the 2 guys that will be carrying the load inside, Mack Wilson, Dylan Moses, and the filling in for Sean Dion Hamilton and Rashaan Evans. As far as outside guys go, you get all those guys back with the returns of Christian Miller, Terrell Lewis, Anthony Jennings, Jamie Mosley, and Chris Allen. We flip this over to the secondary. Alabama losing 6 guys to the NFL. We know who they are. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Ronnie Harrison, Tony Brown, Levi Wallace, Anthony Averett, and Hootie Jones. The guys expected to replace those guys. Deontay Thompson, to me, will be one of the safeties at 6'2", about to cross that 200-pound benchmark there. Thompson, who was fluctuated between defensive back and wide receiver from 2015 to 2016 this past year, was really much so solidified as a DB, was Minkah Fitzpatrick's understudy in spring practice, summer workouts, fall camp, and going into the regular season. Hits like Ronnie Harrison, Deontay Thompson does, but has that coverage ability that Minkah has, bringing that to the table. A guy that could be playing opposite or right next to Deontay Thompson. Give me Trayvon Diggs, as the other safety. Already at 6'2", very much so now solidified as a player in the secondary. Understandably so. In fall camp last year, he was talked about a lot as a guy that was getting under the skin of wide receivers like Calvin Ridley, Robert Foster, Cam Sims, was really rising, really emerging, really playing well. Unfortunately, got beat out at the last part of fall camp. Going into the regular season, especially in the game against Florida State, Diggs getting beat out by Levi Wallace for that corner spot. But I like Trevon Diggs at safety, has a chance to kind of be that Eddie Jackson-esque type of a player. And also in special teams, I feel like he'll finally be able to fine-tune his punt return, kick return game. As far as the cornerback position, at one of the corners, I like Saivion Smith. Somebody that has played in the Southeastern Conference before, started off his career at Louisiana State University before taking the JUCO route, Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and now he's back in the SEC with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nick Saban known for playing JUCO guys before. You look at Dion Blue and John Fulton, I think Smith has way more talent than both of those guys, can be a solid plug and play player. Aside from Saivion Smith, the second corner could actually be kind of a toss-up for me. Jalen Armour-Davis, Josh Jobe, Alabama also picking up Patrick Surtain in this 2018 class. It's going to be a coin flip between one of these three. All three of these guys are really good. Jalen Armour-Davis coming out of St. Paul Episcopal High School in Mobile. Josh Jobe, a 5-star. Patrick Surtain out of American Heritage High down there in Florida. Whichever one of these three wins this job is going to be really, really skilled, prepared, ready to play. At that star position, taking over for Tony Brown, I have Shyheim Carter. Shyheim Carter, to me, was a better fit at that star role than Tony Brown was. But look at Tony Brown's experience, his emotional leadership in the defensive backfield. Nick Saban wanted to give him more of an opportunity. But Shyheim Carter, as far as a natural fit, played well last year, had a good showing in the national championship game against Georgia. So I like Shyheim Carter at star. At that dime position, give me Daniel Wright. This kid can hit out of Boyd Anderson High School, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 6'1", 185 pounds. He can literally play in this dime back row, and I understand Scott Cochran's going to put the weight on this kid, but you look at Minkah Fitzpatrick, he played in that dime role at 6'1", 203 pounds. So if you put about 10 more pounds, 10 to 15 more pounds on Daniel Wright, you get him 6'1", 210, 215, maybe even 208 pounds. This guy can hit, he can play the boundary, he can cover, like Daniel Wright at that dime backer position. So, when you look at players in the secondary that will emerge for the guys leaving off for the draft, Trevon Diggs, Deontay Thompson, like both of those options at safety. Saivion Smith at one of the corners. At the other spot, it'll be a coin flip. It'll be a toss-up, a battle between Jalen Armour-Davis, Josh Jobe, Patrick Surtain. At star, I like Shyheim Carter. At that dime back, that dime position, that money roll, give me Daniel Wright. We're into players that will emerge or that have to emerge, rise up, step up in the absence of guys leaving for the National Football League. We'll take another break here on In My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine, Stephen M. Smith. Upon our return, ladies and gentlemen, we dive into the defensive coordinator situation in Alabama. News coming out, it looks like it will be Tosh Lupoi taking over as the main defensive coordinator and play caller, and Pete Golding serving as the inside linebackers coach. We'll touch it up on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. It's your boy, Stephen M. Smith, host of In My Own Words, the podcast. If you are a fan of this show, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube channel. Also follow the brand on Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of social media as we continue to bring you the best in Alabama football and Crimson Tide athletics.